The unfathomable horror on Elbrus. A frozen descent into madness that dwarfs Dyatlov Pass. Hello, friends. Before we plunge into this bone-chilling saga, picture this. The infamous Dyatlov Pass mystery, with its slash tents, bizarre injuries, and endless theories, has captivated the world for decades. But what if I told you there's a tale from 1990 on the icy flanks of Mount Elbrus that eclipses it in sheer, gut-wrenching enigma? This isn't just a story of nature's wrath. It's a nightmare laced with inexplicable horrors that will haunt your thoughts long after you finish reading. Imagine seasoned climbers, masters of their craft, reduced to delirium in a snowbound tomb, human hair discovered in a victim's stomach, a radio smashed with apparent intent, a cryptic pool of blood staining the white expanse, and bodies frozen in poses that scream of madness. What began as a simple training exercise spiraled into a frozen apocalypse, where the line between survival instinct and insanity blurred beyond recognition. This account will grip you with its escalating dread, forcing you to question the limits of human endurance and the dark secrets mountains can hide. Prepare yourself. This is no ordinary tragedy. It's a descent into the abyss that defies logic and lingers like frostbite on the soul. Let's set the stage properly. The year was 1990, a pivotal time in the waning days of the Soviet Union, when political tensions simmered but the spirit of adventure burned bright among its hardy explorers. Mount Elbrus, towering at 18,510 feet as Europe's tallest summit, stood as a beacon for alpinists seeking to test their mettle against the raw fury of the Caucasus Range. It wasn't a playground for the faint-hearted. Its dual peaks, blanketed in perpetual snow and ice, had claimed countless lives through avalanches, crevasses, and the insidious grip of altitude. Into this formidable arena arrived an elite squad of 6 Russian climbers, hand-picked for their prowess and unyielding resolve. Leading them was Sergei Levin, a no-nonsense veteran whose leadership had saved lives on previous expeditions. At his side was Sergei Farbstein, not only a master alpinist but a trained physician, whose medical expertise had earned him accolades from grueling ascents. Farbstein wasn't just along for the ride. He'd accumulated master-level points from prior conquests, proving his mettle on slopes that would break lesser men. The team was completed by Oleg Buldakov, a tenacious soul known for his endurance, Alexander Odintsov, whose sharp instincts had navigated treacherous paths before, Vladimir Varnin, a strategist with an eye for detail, and Yuri Lazarev, whose quiet strength anchored the group in crises. These men weren't casual hikers, they were battle-tested warriors of the vertical world. Levin and Farbstein held the prestigious title of Masters of Sport in Mountaineering, a Soviet honor reserved for those who'd conquered peaks that demanded superhuman grit. Their collective resumes boasted rescues in the jagged Tian Shan Mountains and the perilous Caucasus, where they'd pulled comrades from the jaws of death. But why Elbrus now? The trip served 2 intertwined goals, each adding layers of intrigue to what would become a fateful journey. Primarily, they were there for the Turiada, a grand mountaineering festival that drew teams from across the USSR, including their representation of Leningrad's tourist climbers. As seasoned pros, they volunteered as a safety net, a rescue contingent poised to intervene if novice groups faltered. This role suited them perfectly, given their history of high-stakes interventions. Yet, beneath the event's camaraderie lurked a deeper ambition. Elbrus was mere preparation, a warm-up for an audacious expedition to the Pamir Mountains the next season. The Pamirs, with their sky-piercing summits exceeding 24,000 feet, represented the ultimate challenge. But this wasn't a standard climb. It involved a shadowy search mission for the Klochkov group, who had vanished in 1989 under circumstances so peculiar that whispers of foul play or supernatural interference still circulated in climbing circles. For Levin's team, Elbrus felt like child's play, a chance to shake off the rust, build cohesion, and simulate the brutal conditions awaiting them in the Pamirs. By May 2nd, the group had settled into the Prayat 11 shelter, a Spartan outpost clinging to the mountain at about 13,800 feet. This ramshackle refuge, named for its 11 original bunks, served as a vital waypoint for climbers acclimatizing to the thin air. And acclimatization was no joke. It's the silent killer in high-altitude pursuits. Without it, the body rebels against the oxygen-starved environment. Blood thickens, headaches pound like hammers, and in worst cases, fluid floods the brain or lungs, leading to edema that can kill in hours. Symptoms creep insidiously: fatigue, dizziness, nausea, escalating to hallucinations and death. To mitigate this, climbers employ acclimatization outings, brief forays higher up the slope during the day, followed by a descent to lower elevations for sleep. This yo-yo approach tricks the body into adapting, boosting red blood cell production to ferry more oxygen. Levin's team, after 3 days at Prayat 11, decided it was time for such an outing. They packed light, no heavy tents, just essentials for a quick loop. The plan was straightforward: ascend a bit, gain altitude exposure, then return before dusk. Little did they know, this routine exercise would morph into a protracted battle for survival. The afternoon of May 2nd started promisingly. The sky was clear, the snow crisp underfoot, and morale high as they trudged upward. Around 2:30 p.m., they encountered a descending group from the Turiata, exchanging brief pleasantries amid the thin air. Levin, ever confident, shared their intent to push just a little higher, 1 or maybe 1.5 stages before looping back. At 14,800 feet, this elevation would daunt most, but these experts shrugged it off. They topped Elbrus repeatedly and scaled Pamir Giants over 20,000 feet, where the air feels like breathing through a straw. Pressing on for another 40 minutes, they paused for a well-deserved snack. Energy bars, perhaps some dried fruit, shared jokes to keep spirits light. But mountains are fickle masters. In moments, the weather betrayed them. Winds surged from nowhere, gusting with ferocious intensity. A thick fog rolled in like a living shroud, swallowing visibility to mere feet. Snowflakes turned to a blinding blizzard, disorienting and deadly. The temperature plummeted, and the once familiar slope became a white void where one wrong step could mean a fatal plunge. Levin, drawing on years of experience, assessed the peril instantly. Pushing higher was madness. Even descent risked catastrophe in zero visibility. Crevasses lurked unseen, avalanches loomed, and the cold could sap strength in minutes. With no tents, standard omission for short outings, they turned to a time-honored survival method: excavating a snow cave. This wasn't panic, it was protocol, and it doubled as training for Pamir riggers. Using ice axes and shovels, they hollowed out a shelter with 2 chambers, insulated against the gale. They radioed Prayat 11, calmly updating command on their impromptu bivouac. Huddled inside, they shared warmth, perhaps recounting past triumphs to fend off unease. The night from May 2nd to 3rd passed uneasily but without disaster. Winds howled outside like tormented spirits, but the cave held. For these hardened souls, it was an inconvenience, a story to laugh about later over vodka. Base camp remained unalarmed. After all, these were the rescuers, not the rescued. Everyone banked on morning bringing clearer skies and a swift return. Dawn on May 3rd shattered that illusion. The storm raged fiercer. Winds clocked at 100 feet per second. Temperatures teetered between 32 degrees Fahrenheit and 23 degrees Fahrenheit, and humidity created a clammy chill that pierced to the bone. Visibility, non-existent. A swirling whiteout where up and down blurred. They ventured a descent attempt, hearts pounding with cautious optimism. But the fog turned every step treacherous. Farbstein, the doctor, faltered twice, slipping on the slick incline. His stumbles weren't mere clumsiness. They signaled trouble. His vision, already poor, was obliterated by mist-fogged glasses, rendering him effectively sightless. Worse, symptoms of mountain sickness emerged. Dizziness, perhaps nausea, hinting at the body's revolt against the altitude. Their 3-day acclimatization proved insufficient. The thin air was winning. Retreating to the cave, they faced another blow. One chamber collapsed under snow weight, forcing all into a single, suffocating space. Rebuilding, exhaustion vetoed it. Strength ebbed away. Compounding the crisis, during their aborted descent, shadowy figures materialized on the slope. 2 Japanese climbers, stranded and desperate. Ill-equipped for the prolonged exposure, lacking food and proper gear, they teetered on collapse. Levin's code of honor kicked in. Abandoning them meant certain death. He welcomed them into the cave, swelling the occupants to 8 in a space barely fit for half. Oxygen grew scarce, breaths labored in the confined air. Fatigue clawed at minds and bodies. Physical drain from digging and failed efforts. Mental strain from isolation and uncertainty. Yet, over the crackling radio, they projected calm, reassuring base that all was manageable. Pride likely factored in. Levin, the designated rescuer, loath to beg for aid. Signals flickered anyway, reliable only outside amid the tempest. As dusk fell, Levin's transmission turned grave. He abbreviated the update, setting a 7 a.m. follow-up, and uttered a haunting line. "We're relying on a support team." The facade cracked. Peril loomed larger. A modest search by Mount Elbrus group braved the elements that day but yielded nothing. The blizzard devoured all traces. Defeated, they withdrew. Levin's team, perhaps sensing vulnerability in some members, chose to hunker for another night. This choice, born of loyalty, proved fatal. If Farbstein and Buldakov were already faltering, leaving them wasn't an option. That second night descended into hell. Snow encroached, burying the entrance and stifling air. Carbon dioxide built, breaths grew ragged. 3 Levin, Lazarev, and Varnin emerged to excavate, exposed to the gale's fury. The sky teased with a brief clearing, Private 11's lights mocking from below. Farbstein lay incapacitated, his condition dire. Buldakov raved incoherently, altitude ravaging his brain with delusions. Levin agonized over descent but delayed, clinging to dawn's promise. Hope dimmed as the cold infiltrated, wet clothes clinging like icy shrouds. Morning unveiled apocalypse. Odintsov stirred in the snow-choked cave, panic surging as he realized burial alive. For an agonizing hour, he clawed through the drift, emerging into a tableau of terror. 3 comrades' corpses sprawled nearby, frozen effigies in the snow. Inside, 2 more hovered near death. One Japanese had fled, the other clung to life. The missing Japanese was soon located, entombed in a crevasse's deadly embrace. Odintsov, adrenaline fueling his battered frame, lurched downward. Fate intervened. Rescuers, seeking the Japanese, intercepted him. He directed them back, but salvation came too late. Buldakov, hauled down, showed no vital signs. Farbstein reached Private 11, only to expire from hypothermia's merciless grip, never awakening. Just Odintsov and 1 Japanese endured, shadows of their former selves. This could pass as a poignant alpine mishap, weather's caprice claiming bold souls who courted danger. Climbers embrace such perils, after all, but unearth the oddities, and the narrative fractures into something profoundly disturbing, a riddle that gnaws at the psyche like unrelenting frost. The radio, their lifeline, demolished, not from a fall, but with deliberate force, as if silencing cries for help. Gear disappeared. Farbstein's premium imported ascender, vital for ascents. Adjustable ski poles gone. Levin's poles vanished too. Scavenging rescuers? Possible but suspicious in context. Then the excess. 52 ice screws, an arsenal unnecessary for their mild route. Why? Speculation ignites. A covert, extreme path undisclosed? Hidden rescues? Or illicit trades, Soviet titanium screws, coveted globally, swapped for Western luxuries like insulated boots or down jackets, rarities in the USSR? Foreign climbers prized that metal, forging lightweight gear or paying cash. But hauling 52 on a training hike? Baffling overkill. Inside the cave, a blood pool congealed, tied to Buldakov's facial gash? Internal bleeding from sickness? Vomited in agony? The truth eludes. Yet the autopsy's revelation chills deepest. Hair from a teammate lodged in a victim's stomach. Ingested how? Desperate cannibalism amid starvation? Hallucinated frenzy? It evokes primal horror, a descent into savagery. Bodies outside defied reason. Bootless feet, jacketless torsos, pants lowered, faces iced from prolonged, living exposure. They lay motionless while alive, as if paralyzed by some unseen force. Eerily, novices higher up weathered the storm in flimsy tents, emerging with minor ailments. Why did elites crumble? Forensics decreed hypothermia, but the catalyst? Not the climb. This unfolded on a drill. Theories proliferate like cracks in ice. Secret KGB ops? Extraterrestrial meddling? One whispers Farbstein, the medic, dosed the group with experimental acclimatization drugs, triggering catastrophe. Unproven yet tantalizing. Levin's radio reticence suggests concealment. Pride? Crisis? Odintsov, survivor extraordinaire, shifted his account post-chat with Ebril. Intimidation? Conspiracy? Illogical piecing. Cave asphyxiation drove 3 out into Arctic blasts. Wetter warmth yielded to drier cold, amplifying freeze. Hypoxia twisted cognition, sparking paradoxical undressing. Victims burn with illusory heat, stripping fatally. Circulation collapsed, organs failed. Soaked down jackets, sans modern waterproofing, became sodden weights from sweat and cave moisture. Cramped confinement bred thermal fatigue, bodies weary of cold, surrendering resistance. Stoves, primed with alcohol, potentially spewed cyanide in stale air. Carbon monoxide poisoned subtly. Delirium reigned. Radio bashed, hair consumed, blood spewed. The fleeing Japanese ventilated the cave, saving 2, but tumbled to doom. Culprits abound. Abrupt weather birthing damp lethality. Hasty acclimatization inviting sickness. Farbstein hit hardest. Gear saturation nullifying insulation. Cave overcrowding devouring oxygen, fueling hypoxia's madness. Immobility bred frostbite. Fuel burned air toxic. Summed, it forged a perfect storm of demise. Rational men unraveling into chaos, exiting to winds that slew them in slumber. Still, enigmas persist. The ingested hair, blood's origin, radio's destruction. Odintsov's revision stokes cover up suspicions. This Elbrus enigma, more intimate and visceral than Dyatlov, underscores mountain's dual nature. Majestic yet malevolent, unraveling minds in isolation's grip. It warns, even experts falter when elements conspire. What befell them truly? Ponder, share theories, I'll devour them. If this riveted you, like, subscribe, spread the word. Stay vigilant. The peaks await, but so does peril.